Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our Civil 3D Cloud Collaboration webinar. Seth, go ahead and jump over. Thank you so much. All right, so just some important announcements to go ahead and get started here. All of our attendee lines will be muted throughout the course of this presentation. You can send us your questions via the chat box or the questions box. The webcast will be recorded and we will be uploading that both to our website and our YouTube channel a little bit later today, and you will be receiving an email with that recording as well if you've registered for this webinar. For any additional questions, concerns, anything we can help with, go ahead and give us a call at 305-445-6480 or shoot us an email at info@ddscad.com. One more slide. All right, so we're very excited to have Seth Cohen with us here today. Expert in all things Civil 3D and adjacent. So we're very excited to have Seth here to go through today's topic with us. So without further ado, Seth, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Alan, and welcome everybody. All right, so today we're going to talk about BIM collaboration. I'll try and get into like the guts of a lot of stuff as far as it relates to BIM Collaborate Pro, the Construction Cloud. These are things you probably have gotten emails on from Autodesk saying it's the next big thing, go to this, all that kind of stuff. But we'll actually get into, how to set it up, just some of the things in the background that you will kind of get, so that we're not just kind of showing you all the whiz bang type stuff, but just actually kind of how it actually kind of works and what are the advantages to it. And I'm actually going to go over some of the disadvantages to it as well, because I like to tell you guys kind of everything the way that it really kind of works. But this is kind of a basic agenda. I'll go here and there, but basically that's our agenda. All right, so the whole point, basically before the Autodesk Construction Cloud, it was BIM 360. You may have heard of that. That was the term it was using. And there are different kind of aspects to it, but basically the whole thing is in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And then from there, it has all the different parts of it. So you have designing, planning, building, operating, and so on, and then the different technologies, but it's a unified platform. That was kind of what they realized, I think, at the end, when they initially had BIM 360, was disparate of, all the other technologies they were buying, like some of the other ones that are more related to buildings and Revit and that type of stuff. But that's basically what the kind of the one-stop shop for all the cloud is, this ACC. It'll be called that, all right? That's kind of the abbreviation for it, okay? So within the ACC, you have all the different tools, right? Think of them as like apps or just ways to connect to the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and they perform different tasks. Some come with BIM Collaborate, some are separate costs, and some other things, they have whole different apps that you may or may not need, all right? So obviously the one we're gonna kind of focus on is the Autodesk Docs and BIM Collaborate Pro, because that's how it relates to kind of Civil 3D, AutoCAD, and just kind of using that functionality, instead of kind of using a server and that type of stuff. They also have Takeoff, they have Autodesk Build, and so on. The nice thing about, of course, with of course all this, as you can see, kind of builds on Autodesk Docs, where you have all the administration side, whether it's user management, your Autodesk IDs, project administration. Obviously, it's just like a document management system. That's how you have to basically look at it as, okay? For some insights, I haven't really dabbled into them that much, to be honest with you. I suppose if you were doing a building with land development and all kinds of other stuff, and you had a whole mess of people working on a project, it would probably be very advantageous to kind of take to use those tools and help you kind of as the project progresses, all right? So this is just a little graph, and you may have seen this already, but I just kind of want to go over it. Basically, it's the thing that makes it all work between the users and the Autodesk Construction Cloud is desktop connection. We'll get into how to download it, how it looks, and all that kind of stuff. The whole point of it is, like I said, it's basically document management on the cloud. What the advantage is compared to other things like OneDrive or Dropbox or Google Drive, etc., is that it is Autodesk savvy. In other words, it knows what a DWG file is. If you've ever done OneDrive, which I actually do like OneDrive, I use it quite a bit to share large files and things like that. The problem is, and you can actually collaborate using OneDrive, but it really only works with Microsoft files, right? So, 2 people, 3 people, 5 people can all be in an Excel spreadsheet, a Word file, a PowerPoint file, you name it, right? It all works and it kind of understands when they're all together. However, if you're using AutoCAD or Civil 3D like we do, right? What happens is, and I've tested this out, is you literally, one person opens it, and if let's say the other person opens that same file, it doesn't notify them that the file was open, and so there's no file locking mechanism for any other file format but Microsoft stuff, right? So, and basically it starts making copies of every user who's ever opened up the file, and it makes a complete mess of your OneDrive folder, okay? Obviously, if you integrate SharePoint, that's a whole different avenue, but that's like truly, you know, integrating it completely with your whole operating system and everything, which most people don't do, okay, unless you're a really large organization. So the purpose of Autodesk Docs is to basically understand, hey, when if you're all on Autodesk Docs and you're all using this functionality, it understands, of course, you know, hey, I'm in this file, and then nobody else can go into it, and it'll tell you who's in it and so on. What's also great about it is, of course, it tells you all the different revisions that you've done. Anytime you save it, it creates a save, right, a revision of it. You can always go back to that. There's a way to finally kind of set it up so it doesn't do it infinite, but it used to do that, where it would just be infinite as far as, you know, how many files it was saving and stuff like that. But basically now it's 9,109 version, so it's still pretty infinite, all right? One of the biggest things too is it does save on, you know, a server. So obviously as long as everyone is using Autodesk Docs, you know, you can have your admin staff using it, where they can put, you know, it doesn't matter that it's an AutoCAD or an Excel spreadsheet file, right? So Autodesk Docs supports everything, not just Autodesk files or Autodesk related files, you know, data references and things like that, or sheet set manager type files, all right? So it's 80 plus files type supported, and they keep adding more based upon, you know, what's happening as far as like what's being uploaded, and other users saying, hey, we have this file format, which isn't, you know, let's say it's an ICPR file, or let's say it's a ponds file or something like that, right? So they keep adding that as far as you know, into it. Now, Autodesk Docs, which is the ability to just go into the actual like file management side of things, is part of the AEC collection, okay? So that does come with it. And this is where it gets, I think, a little confusing to some people. But you do have to buy a separate license of BIM Collaborate if you want to work in Civil 3D or Revit. That's basically that's how you get the Civil 3D aspect to tie in or link to the actual files. But you can always just upload files if you really wanted to, but you won't be able to collaborate with it. In other words, it won't work within Civil 3D. Okay, that's why you have to buy that as a separate license. Okay. So again, the whole purpose of the, you know, of Collaborate Pro is you get docs, you can do design collaboration. If you're using Civil 3D, you're going to use some of that. Model collaboration is mostly, I think, more for clash detection, coordination issues, and that type of stuff. It's more for Revit type stuff. I did add a model. I added my corridor model to the file, and it doesn't do much, to be honest with you. I'll show it to you. It lets you see in 3D at least. And then of course, collaboration for Civil 3D, right? That's the biggest thing, is that it creates and consumes the data shortcuts as well as X references, right? So AutoCAD references. So it understands, you know, when you're loading a file, hey, I should grab all the other related files, right? It understands that it's not just this file, right? It's going to be your data shortcuts. It's going to be your PDFs that you might reference. It's going to be an image that you might reference, and so on, right? So it understands, it reaches into the file and reads that file and says, hey, what other files do I need to bring up to the cloud or to my Autodesk Construction Cloud to make this file work? I will say, within the past few months, they really have updated the desktop connector, which is honestly why I haven't really been, you know, showing the BIM Collaborate, because I got to be honest with you, it was okay, but it really wasn't ready for showtime, in my opinion. You know, I'm a user at heart, so you really have to, you know, I don't want to affect the way people use the software now without BIM Collaborate, to all of a sudden integrate this whole new system, and then now you don't have like something as simple as sorting by type. Like, for real, you couldn't sort by type about a year or two ago. So I mean, something like that is just basic. Or right-click menu, right? So before, you couldn't right-click and get right-click specific things based upon the file you right-click on. Basically, I just wanted to act like OneDrive, and it wasn't. So in my opinion, it really wasn't really kind of ready to really use. You could, I mean, it was great for collaborating with large projects and things like that, but in my opinion, it didn't have the full functionality that you'd want, you know, that you're used to now, right? If you just go to File Explorer and you have a server, you just go to your Z drive and pick your project, and then right-click and do a search, or right-click and do something like, you know, extract or zip or whatever. And that stuff just wasn't available until recently. So I want to say, I think it's pretty ready to go. And I'm going to show you some things that really, just in my opinion, aren't really ready to go. They work, they're fine, you can deal with them. And there are ways to go around that too. I'll kind of show you that as well, okay? All right, so let me just get out of PowerPoint for now. All right, so the way this all works is basically, once you've bought the product or you've signed up for your construction cloud, okay, then what you're going to do is you'll obviously be assigned an admin, and that admin will then start, going in, and I just want to kind of show this to you as far as what you'll basically be getting, right? They'll get like emails, and they'll start adding people with roles, right? That's the beauty of this functionality is you're a mini IT administrator, right? That's what I would say, but it's simple. In other words, it's really not something that you have to be an expert in or have to, understand the intricacies. They make it kind of pretty easy to, add users, create projects using templates, etc. Add users, give them roles, and so on. And I'll kind of go through that process. The first thing, of course, is you would basically be notified that you're either an admin or, whatever roles you have. Then if, let's say, projects were created. So this is a project that, of course, I created, but it lets you know, hey, you're part of this project, okay? And of course, that's the whole beauty of this system, is that it does email and notify you of all the different aspects of what may happen. Hey, this folder was shared with you, and if you want to view it, you can click on this link. And of course, you would log in using your Autodesk ID, and it knows that you have a license of the ACC, it knows you have a license of BIM Collaborate for Civil 3D, et cetera, and it knows that, and that's basically how it kind of works, okay? So that's kind of the gist of it. All right, so as far as setting it up, this would be your home page once you've set up, and it shows you all the different kind of parts right here. And as you can see, you define where you live or where your office is, etc. You can also see what issues may be assigned to you, etc. What projects you are working on. No, I don't care about AU 2023, right? So you can see these are the 3 projects that are assigned to me, okay? And if you want quick access to them, you can click here, right? These are the project templates that I've created, okay? And so basically, this is kind of your one-stop shop for that. Now, if let's say you want to start creating projects and so on, let's go ahead and kind of navigate that and see how that kind of works, okay? So it does take a little bit of time to kind of get used to it. And of course, they have a tutorial, you can just look at it. Basically what you do is you click here first, and that kind of gets you into the admin aspect of it, okay? You'll notice here that a drop down appears, and you can pick back to my home, etc. Okay? So now I'm basically in, and again, what you want to do is kind of look at the different spots. This is telling me I'm kind of in the main account right now, and of course, this is me as a user. So if I click on that drop down, I have access to the accounts and all the projects within this account, because I was given that permission, right? Obviously, depending upon what you were given through your role, that will basically be assigned to you, and that's what you would see, okay? So we'll go over how to create a project in a second. I want to go over members, okay? So here's your members, and of course, if you want to add a member, you just simply click here, and you would basically in their email address. So let me go ahead and I'll add my personal email here, seth33@gmail.com. Please don't spam me. All right, and then so you can basically then start applying, what company that they work for, what roles are they going to be. Let's say this person is just simply an engineer. I do not want to give them that, and I don't want to give them executive. So I'll just click add, and now they are a member. It gives them the ability now, of course, to then access them through projects and other roles to then go in and assign certain things, right? And of course, if you look over here, and let's go ahead and click on this one here, let's say, you'll notice how you can assign different things like Autodesk Takeoff, or you can assign, Autodesk Build, or you can assign other things like here, like BIM Collaborate Pro to them, and they can then work on it. So what's great is you can obviously assign it to other people to allow them to use BIM Collaborate as well. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to. You get the idea, okay? And of course, if you want to upload a picture, which is always, I think, a good idea, especially if you're working online remotely with people, you want to kind of see what they look like. That's always a good idea. And your cell phone, I think, is a great idea as well, okay? But that's adding members, okay? Before I get into projects, here's companies, right? You can add a company. And of course, you would do these first before you actually create the project. That way you can apply these different categories, and you can do it afterwards too. It's not like you have to redo it if you have, or if you want to. So then, of course, we have add roles here. And of course, if you click on the different roles, it'll basically define the different kind of levels of permissions and so on like that. So you can add those yourself and then just apply the different roles, okay? As far as projects go, let's go and just create a project here, and I'll just call this one test project. Of course, you can give it a project number, what account, if you have multiple accounts assigned to you, you can assign it there. What project type is it? All right, you don't have to, I mean, you do have to fill these in, but it doesn't really necessarily mean anything. It's it's kind of up to you as far as how you want to assign these kind of different things to it. So let's say this is a streets, roads, and highways project. And I'll give it a project number of, let's say, M1234556, okay? And then of course you can actually add in the location here, and as you type in here, I think it does actually, yeah, it should start adding in kind of the address here and stuff like that, but that's up to you. And what's even nicer is you can actually add a project template, which I'll get into in a second here. So I'm going to go ahead and just use on this transportation project one. And of course, you want to do the time zone. That way, everyone knows, who started it here. And of course, you can do the date. So let's say it starts today, and let's say my end date for this project is next week or whatever. Okay. You can add a value here. So if you want to know what the budget is, so let's say this is $1 million project. All right. So there's my $1 million project, and I'll click on Create Project. All right. Now, I want to talk about project templates, because one of the things that's really great, actually, before I do, let me back up here. So one of the things, of course, that's in here, once you've done that, then you can start saying, okay, let's say what products and permissions does this project need? So of course, it's going to need docs, it's going to need design collaboration. Do I care about model coordination? Maybe I do. I don't care about takeoff, cost management, or build. You'll notice here it shows you also unpurchased products, which we don't have any of those licenses, and that's fine. And of course, if you look at Insight, it shows you if you have Insight in there, okay? Then what you can do, of course, is add members, right? So you can go in here, you can just start typing them, or you should, if you start typing in, let's say I start typing in my name here, yeah. So you notice how it automatically kind of finds me as I start typing in here. I can also grab other people here as well. Alan's gonna get an email in a second here. But then of course you can say, okay, what do each of these people need, or et cetera, and then just add them. And then now they're added to the project. And of course, by doing so, this allows them, of course, notice the email that you get, of course, right? It tells you all that kind of stuff. And by doing that, then it lets them know that they're part of the project. And of course, they can then add that project as something. So again, it's really great for security, because it really lets you, allow only certain individuals to see it. Of course, it takes a second to update, as you can see there. Okay, so it updated them there. All right. So that's how kind of simple it really is. It's not hard to kind of do that. Now, again, going back to this, if I go back to docs here, and I want to step back. I want to go to project templates. I wanted to show you guys this. So it's very important. What I recommend you guys do is create a project template. Initially, you have to just create one project, but then what you should do when you create this project template is I would use an existing projects folder structure. And the way I set this up was I just uploaded an empty, actually it doesn't even matter if it's empty, because it removes any of the files and it just simply uses the folders. So if I click on this here and I'll just click next, and then what I can do is the template name will be, let's say I'm going to call this one a utility project. So this will be, I'll do all caps here, utility project. All right, and I'll click on here, and I can then pick on, let's say I'll just pick the one I'm doing right now. I'll hit create template. And then what that will do is it literally just grabs all that folder structure and uses that folder structure. And of course, I could add template members to this. I'll just kind of leave that as is. And then we'll just go back to the project template here. So we'll just go back to home here and click this. And we'll go to project templates. And now if I were to look at that template, so here's my utility project here. All right, so it shows all this here, and it gives you all, and it shows you all the permissions and so on. Now, if I were to actually look at that project, you would see I haven't done it yet, but basically you'll see the project folder structure that gets kind of copied. That's the whole point of that, okay? All right, so let's go to docs here. So again, once you have your projects created, right, then what you can do is just go to docs, and here is where you pick on the different projects that you want to navigate to. All right, so as you can see, here are the project files, and this is the folder structure that's in this project, and it just basically copied that project template. So obviously it makes sense, right? You would always just come up with one. This is my standard folder structure, and as you can see, I have administration, study reports, preliminary design, final, bidding, negotiation, construction, post-construction, and my HCAD folder, which will be basically where all my CAD files are. And of course, this project here, follows some sort of folder convention, and in this case, it's basically the DOT. So if you look here, I have all the DOT folder structures here, and of course, it's just me in here. I've been the only one kind of working in it, and that's basically how you kind of can work with it. Is you set up a template that has that. All right. Now, what I want to show you is, so actually before I show you the how to set up your standards, let's talk about desktop connector, because that is the one thing that obviously kind of controls it controls everything. That's literally, and you have to obviously download it. So first off, to download, it's very simple. Just go to your manage.autodesk.com, right? I'm sure you guys have done this in the past, and just go to all products and services. And of course, as long as you have the collection or access to it, you just type in, desktop here. Oh, I do not want to do that. And I'll just type in desktop connector, and there it is. You just download it. Obviously, if I were you, I'd put this on the server somewhere, and then basically that way everyone can install it. Now, once it's installed, one of the biggest things that people say is, hey, where are my projects? I don't see anything. So if you go to your tray, this tool, a desktop connector, runs in the background. You can see it right here, okay? That's what that is. And if I click on it, you'll see it comes up here. Now, this is showing me kind of what the errors. It couldn't upload these files. These are the files that, or it's just update file failed. You could just kind of redo it to make sure it is, okay? So if I right click on this though, you'll see here, this is how you add the projects for you. So it's whatever projects are assigned to you, it goes into that account and it says, okay, here are the projects assigned to you. Now I can toggle that on and basically save it. And now it will connect it using Windows Explorer. And of course, Windows Explorer, once you install Desktop Connector, you will, come on, go to this one here. All right, so what you'll see is this little icon appears right here, right? So basically, if you look at Autodesk Docs, right? So this is where Autodesk Desktop Connector is connecting. If I double click inside here, you'll see now it's downloaded that project, right? And that's how it controls the syncing and unsyncing and, hey, is it locked? Is it not locked? What file should I upload, etc. You can also upload files in here. It's been my experience, this is my opinion, I would do it here. It seems to work a little better here. One time I added a whole bunch of folders in through the browser, and it didn't recognize them as folders. And then when it downloaded them here, it didn't work. I don't know why. Maybe it was my connection, it just timed out or something, and it couldn't resolve that they were folders. And when I double clicked the folder, it said, hey, what do you want to use to open this file? So I found, for me, the best way, once you get your project created, it's kind of best to just use Windows Explorer to kind of manage it here, okay? And of course, if I make a folder here, someone else is going to see that folder once it synchronizes, which it should automatically, okay? And that's basically how this works. So if we go into the, let's go into the project that I have here, you'll see project files, and here's it mimicked, right? It's basically the same exact folder structure that you can see right here, right? So if I scroll up, right, there's my project folder. Let me go up a folder here. So if I go to project files, right, this is all right here. So it's the same exact thing, okay? If I go into HCAD, where my CAD files are, and I go into, let's say, roadway, here are all my CAD files, okay? I can also see here I've got a sheet set file already created, right? I'm getting emails now because of all the stuff that I created, right? You get the idea. That basically kind of happens. It lets you know, and it adds links to those to kind of give you access to those locations, okay? So that's basically, of course, how to set up a project. Again, you're going to use a project template. It's really easy to do. In fact, what I did to create this one was I simply added I have an empty folder structure, of course, for my projects. I just added it to a project, right? I just made one that was blank. And then when I created a project template, I said, hey, use this project as a transportation project or a land development project or a utility project. And then I now have it as a template and it's ready to go. Okay, so I can then create it from there. But I found it's best to kind of do it in here, not do the upload here. That like I said, for that one or two times, it has worked for me, but then there were times when it didn't. So I'm just saying it kind of works better this way. Okay. All right, now for me as a CAD manager, a CAD, someone who manages it, for many companies, you want to know how to manage your CAD standards, because when someone goes to plot, when someone goes to, XREF or where's your temp folder, all this kind of stuff, right? My CUI, right? Maybe you have an enterprise CUI. How do you manage that? And this is how you manage it, in my opinion. This is the best way to do it, okay? What I do, and I'm the only one as the CAD manager with permissions, right? Everyone can see it, but I'm the only one with permissions. So if you look here, I have this one here. Let's say it's company NFPS_standards. Inside this folder, yes, you get one called project files. You don't worry about that. That happens in every project, okay? And if you look here, I have everything I need. I have any list files that I might load that I might have for my company, okay? I'm going to have blocks. So all my standard blocks are here. I'm going to have my sheet sets, right? Here are all my sheet sets, my template sheet set files. I have my templates here, right? So here are all my 2D files, my 3D files. I have one for Civil 3D. I've got one for plan and profile sheets, one for plan sheets, etc. Right? So I have all the different types of files that I need for my standards, right? I even uploaded the core design standards for my FDOT, right? So I have the design manual as well as the green book in here, okay? I've also loaded the font, and I've also loaded any of the line type files, etc. Okay. The reason I'm doing this, and of course, I even have a CUI file for my enterprise CUI file. Now, again, I give myself the only admin privileges to this so I can edit it and so on. And of course, as you can imagine, basically every user will have to add this project to their account. Again, don't forget the way you do that is just simply right click on here and go to select projects. And this will just be something they have to do for every single project. Actually, well, I'm sorry, they do it once and then they're done. Once they've done it once, it's ready to work with, okay? Then what you can actually do, now I haven't done it, actually maybe I did do it. I don't remember if I added it here. Let me see. I did not. I meant to add an ARG. So what I can actually do is I can actually add an ARG, which is an Autodesk registry file that basically allows me to simply, when I'm in CAD, so remember the guts of AutoCAD is right click in space, of course, and go to options. And if you look here, look at all my support paths. They are all going to that location for my fonts, my icons, my line types, my blocks, my resources, etc. Whatever I need to add in here, I even added it for my list files so that if I load list files, it's a trusted location, right? And of course, I added it for printing, right? So if I go to my plot style search path, I've got those already in here, right? So that's pointing to my standards in the cloud. So again, it's always going to sync. That's the cool thing. So no matter what, it can sync up there. Now, if you are using Civil 3D reference templates, because it's going to this location by itself, it should find it. I haven't tested this out. My only concern would be that it may or may not use relative pathing. I haven't tested it out yet, but I would definitely use some testing first because my only concern would be this S code. Right, that right there. Basically it would get the rest of the path, but it's going to bypass that and go to wherever your project file is, wherever your standards are. That way it does a relative path to the reference template. So I would just check on that first to make sure you can use reference templates. I'm still finding issues with reference templates myself, but if you use them, that's great. Okay. Again, even your template settings, when I do my drawing template file location, notice how it's going right to here. Okay, and for Q new, I am grabbing my template out of the box or not out of the box, my template that is used for my quote unquote company. Okay, so that is how you automate your standards using the cloud. The beauty of it, of course, is I as the CAD manager would upload. I would open the file because I have permissions to upload the file. I would save it, and then it would basically it would automatically update that file, and then that way any changes would update, for everybody who creates a new file, adds a plot style, etc. Okay, we just synchronize to that, okay, because you give permissions of what people can do and so on. Okay, so that's how you can kind of standardize. You just quote unquote make a project, okay, and then you start adding folders and you add in your AutoCAD resources. The one thing I would just as a recommendation, make sure that you are checking those files. A lot of people don't realize, like in their standard files, they have references or other things, like a template may reference, and if you want to do this, that's fine. It may reference your logo. It may reference a border. Some people reference their border and then they put in their title block just the actual like text and so on, okay, or attribute or an attribute or a title block, right? So the way AutoCAD works, or the way the Construction Cloud works, is if you basically bring in anything that is referencing anything, it wants to bring it up, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing because it reaches into it sometimes a little too deep and says, hey, I've got this reference and that reference and this, and it grabs everything and it tries to put them in a path that is basically, it may or may not be the way that you want it to. It might create extra folders is what I'm getting at. So what I recommend you do is I would detach if you're setting this up in the cloud, detach any references of anything. Think of everything. Think of imagery, Excel spreadsheets, X references, data shortcuts, etc. Detach all that. Add the file as is, and then put the reference itself, whatever that reference is, in some folder that you want it to be relative to the location of it inside the cloud folder, right? So in other words, if I was adding a template, let's say a block, I would put this in here, and then I would create a brand new folder in here called references. So references. All right, then I would put the stuff in there, right? Once I put it in there, I would then reference it everywhere else I need to. That way, when it loads up into the cloud, it'll be relative, right? And of course, you make it relative. That way, it knows it's coming directly from this location, and that's the best way to do it. One of the things you'll notice here, let me point this out once, because we're here. This looks just like OneDrive. That's the beauty of it. Okay, so and again, like I said, about a year or two ago, this if you would not have you would have some status, but it was pretty bad. I'm not going. It was pretty bad. In fact, if you were to right click over here, you would only get a certain set of options, and it was terrible. You couldn't sort by type, which is even more ridiculous. But if I go to show more options, notice how now, and this is, for me, one of my favorite utilities is this utility called Agent Ransack. It's a free utility. It's a search utility. And so if I want to do a search real quickly for something, let's say .dwg, I can now quickly search. Before with the Construction Cloud or BIM 360, you could not do that. You had to go to the browser and search, and it was just really not intuitive. As a user, I want this quick access. I want to go in here. I want to search for stuff, and notice how it's finding everything in that folder, right? So in my opinion, it's really ready to go now. It basically looks just like OneDrive or Google Drive, etc. Okay. You'll notice, of course, the status here. You'll notice that it will sometimes actually show. Let me go into my project here. If I go to here, and we'll go here, and whoops, we'll go to HCAD roadway. And notice how it's telling you these lock icons, right? Because I have those files open, okay? I don't remember if it does the tooltip, if it tells you. Let's see if it does. I don't think it does, but yeah, actually, there we go. It says available on this device, locked by me. So it does give you some tooltips, okay? And I don't know if I assume if you were another user, it would probably tell you who it's locked by, okay? All right, so that's basically how you set up the projects. It's how you can set up your standards. Again, it works really well. And again, what's nice is it's all local. All right, the beauty of this functionality, again, this is why it's really ready for prime time now, is that, once you're done with the project, you can't, because I always get this question is, hey, what happens, I work on 5 projects. Well, my hard drive is only so big. Let's say I've only got 500 gigabytes. Is it going to download everything? What if I have LiDAR in there? Yes, it will upload LiDAR. It will. So it uploads whatever you have, and of course, based upon your internet speed, it's gonna, it might bog it down, or it might be, fast enough. It depends on what you have. But basically, what you do is once you're done with the project, then you would just go back here and you would simply toggle it off, and that frees up your space, right? So if I want to get rid of this one, I'll just toggle that on, click save, and then it just tells you, hey, I'm going to kind of make that and fix it for you, okay? So that's how you add/remove the different projects based upon, whatever it is you're working on. All right, so again, that's how you kind of free up space. Like, a lot of people have that concern, and I get it, I understand. There's a lot of people say, I want all of it. Well, that's up to you how you manage that, really, okay? This is just how this kind of works, okay? All right, let me cancel out of this. Did I do anything special? I don't think I did. Let me just discard that. Okay, so that's setting up your standards, your projects, and the desktop connector, okay? Now, as far as, BIM Collaborate, all right, this is basically how this works, okay? So I have these files open. You just simply open them, okay? Now, if you didn't have them open in the, from Windows Explorer or File Explorer, what you would do, and I'm not going to do it because I'm going to be totally upfront, mine's acting buggy. And I don't know why it is, but if I click on Autodesk Project right now, it's a gray. What you'll normally see is it'll tell you what projects you're in. You basically browse to that folder, and then you open those files up. Within that interface, okay, within the area, and you may have, if you've seen other demos or you've seen it, some pictures of it, it'll tell you if it's synced. It'll tell you if the file is opened by somebody else and who it's opened by, and so on. Okay, so that interface is there. I think the fix for me, I'm going to have to literally uninstall and reinstall Civil 3D, which kind of stinks, but that's just the way it is. Again, I'm not going to click it, but that's what would happen when you click on this, is it shows you the projects that are basically in here, right? So I would come in and I would see this. I would see my 3 projects, and then I would navigate just like you are in File Explorer, and pick the file that I want to open up with. All right, so you can do it this way, or you can do it through Autodesk projects in here, okay? I obviously already have the files open, so, but that's basically how you would do it. Now, when you save a file, all right, so if let's say I go into here and I will, let me just open this up here. If I open this, and I think I can have this open at the same time. Let me move this over here to the left here a little bit. I know you can't see my screen, but if I were to, whoops, go up here and right click here, and I'll just leave this open and I'll hit save, right? So I'm saving this right now, and I'll just do it this way. I'll show it to you here. So if I go into my roadway folder, right, it's basically, notice how it's refreshing. Notice how it's unlocked temporarily. It's uploading the changes, okay? And then of course it'll say that I'm locked here, you know, that it'll lock it once again once it's kind of done. But that's what Desktop Connector does, is it's automatically recognizing that I am in the file, and then it's going to basically upload and you know, save those changes. And of course it shows you a history and all that good stuff here, okay? So that's how it works. Notice how the checkbox is there saying it's kind of synchronized, okay? All right, so that it's really simple. It kind of, the nice thing about this, if you ever tried or heard of Vault, right? A lot of people were like, well, Vault's great, but it's a lot of overhead, and I've got to manage this and check out, check in, check out, check in. They've kind of solved that. They realized that that was kind of the main issue that they didn't like, that people didn't like, and so they've solved that. It literally just works in the background by itself. It knows that you've locked out the file. The second you clear, you know, you exit the file, it frees it up. It takes a little bit of time, not a lot, but it depends on your internet access. It says, hey, you know, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, that person's out, now you can go back in, kind of thing, okay? All right. So one of the things I also want to show you is that on the browser here, all right, so what's nice about this functionality is if I go into my folder here, and let's go into that roadway folder, what I do like about this, you know, one of the things that a lot of companies will set up is they have, you know, obviously you have backups on servers. You also have the ability to do a previous version where you can have it, you can tell the server, hey, save this file every 6 hours. And it'll show previous versions in the properties of that file, which is actually kind of cool. But you don't need that. Once you have this set up, you'll notice here, it's telling you all the different versions. What I can also see if I click on this is, I can actually see the, you know, the file activities here. So I can actually see who saved it, who uploaded it, and so on, right? You can see I just saved that, and it tells you. I like that a lot because it tells me if someone says, I wasn't in the file, I didn't do anything, you can obviously now see, hey, the computer doesn't lie. It's telling me you were in it yesterday, and it showed that you saved it. So yes, you are. Now, if let's say, of course, that person makes a mistake, what you can then do is, of course, go to this V here, click on this, and scroll down, right? And you can then click over here and make this the current file, or just download it, look at the changes to see if it's exactly what you want, and then make it the current file once you've viewed that file to see exactly. And that's awesome. All right, so they are doing a great job with this. I'm looking forward to when you can actually say, hey, only save me the last 1,000 files. All right, but basically right now it's 9,999. Okay, and there's no charge. This is pretty cool. A lot of other companies, if you look at document management systems, they charge you for space, right? I mean, you get a terabyte for pretty cheap. It's not that expensive, but it's usually on, you know, Azure or Google, and basically they charge you per terabyte. But here you're not getting, you're just paying the yearly fee for the BIM Collaborate and, you know, having an actual Autodesk Construction Cloud website, basically. Okay, so it's pretty nice that it's limited. You know, it's unlimited, right? It doesn't limit you at all. Okay. All right, so that's how you can get back to a certain file and see, you know, who worked on it, and see who's working on it, and see who's got it locked and all that kind of stuff, right? It says locked by Seth Cohen, right? So you can kind of see that I've got it open, of course. All right. Okay, so that's really the gist of it as far as, you know, working it there and grabbing stuff from the different parts of, you know, the project collaboration and so on. All right. So let's actually talk about this is pretty recent functionality, and I'm going to be totally upfront. It's okay, but they need to work on it, and they are. I know they are. Okay, so it's just something that's nice. But once it does, what I say is once it works, it works really well. Like it's fast and works really nice because it's all kind of on the cloud type thing. So Sheetset Manager was added a few months ago, like about 6 or 7 months ago or something like that. Okay, and so to do that, the one thing let me back up too before I get any further. I forgot to mention this. Obviously, when you set your working folder, right, to the cloud, right? If I go to Autodesk Docs here and then I navigate inside, and go into wherever that project is, I pick here, right? It automatically knows it's going to look inside this folder for an underscore, or any folder that has underscore shortcuts, right? That's what, it's just like Civil 3D, but it knows, hey, I'm in the cloud, and you'll see that little icon right there. So that's how you know if you're actually working in the cloud and you have your data shortcuts stored there as well, okay? So it actually shows it to you. Everything else is basically working just like it normally works, okay? It shows it to you, all the shortcuts and stuff right here, as you can see, okay? All right, so what I want to show you is just how Sheetset Manager works and some of the kind of the functionality of that, okay? So I've already done this once, but I'm going to do it again in a totally new file, okay? And what I have set up in this file already, because obviously I'm not here to show you Civil 3D or AutoCAD, right? So if you look here, my references, I've got I'm in my plan and profile sheet, right? So basically this file is completely empty, pretty much, except for I've got the design file referenced, my right-of-way referenced, and my topo file referenced, okay? So I've got that referenced in here. As you can kind of see, these are all references. That's all they are, is references. Of course, I have my alignment, which of course is a data reference, right? But it's coming from the cloud. And I have my EG surface, and I also have a set of view frames already created, okay? Again, this could all be data shortcutted, but I have them in this file because it doesn't matter, it's fine. All right, so here's how you have to do it to use Sheetset Manager on the cloud, which again, I don't like this way, and I'm assuming they're gonna, I'm on the beta team, and I've mentioned this to they've said, yeah, we know. For now, this is how it works, and we'll make it so that they're gonna change it. Basically, normally, what I do is I create a Sheetset file, and then I start adding the plan and profile sheets after I've already added the cover sheet, the project notes, the drainage sheets, or whatever I'm doing, right? You actually have to do this functionality, you have to create the sheet set from the Sheetset Manager. It's just the way that it works. Again, the more people who complain to Autodesk, the more they'll kind of fix it, right? So I'll click on Create Sheets here, right? Of course, I'm going to put them all in this file. I got a north arrow. I'll click on that. Click Next. I'm going to add this to a new sheet set. You have to do this, so I'll just call this one Lake Basin Loop. This is an actual project, and I think I've already done one, so I'm going to do -2 just to make sure I did it here, okay? Where do I want this Sheetset file to be located? Actually, I don't think it's going to matter. I take that back. It's not going to matter because it's just going to prompt me anyway, all right? I'll click Next here, and then I'll click on here for Choose Settings. I want to make sure I get the right profile settings I have here, so if I click Next, I do not want to label EG, so let's make sure that's not using, that one I do want to use that. And this one here, I want to make sure that's no labels. And then click Next. Profile 1's going to be EG, and then click Next, and then everything else, we'll just click on Finish here, okay? Grab those settings, click Create Sheets. Of course, it wants to save it, hit OK, and now I'm gonna put these somewhere where, of course, nothing else is located, right? It's just creating the profile views. Now, once it does this, it says, hey, I know I'm connected to the cloud here, and it says, hey, you need to create a sheet set. Like I said, you can't add it to an existing and use this functionality. You have to do it from the template or from a new one. So I'll click on that. Notice how I can pick a sheet set. These are out of the box type ones, but of course, I already have my own. So this is why I have my standards set up on the cloud. I click on the standards, go into the project. I go to my template folder location. This is a road project. I'll click on that and I'll click Select here. It's grabbing that. Now it says, hey, where do you want to put this? And of course, you just basically navigate to your project and you tell it what folder you want to go in. Now, what's weird is you actually have to click the folder. So you have to go back up here. I always just click that and I want to be able to hit OK, but that's not how it works. It's just kind of odd. You toggle it on and click Select. That's how you kind of do it. All right. I'll click Next. All right, it reads that DST file and says, okay, these are the settings and properties that I can put in here. Notice how I've already got this set up. So I can set this up in here. So I can say, okay, actually, that's right, you can't change it. I take that back. Yeah, I wish you could. This is one of those things, again, it's not fully there, but it's okay. You'll change it afterwards, right? But I want to change it now. You can't. You just got to hit create, okay? What it does is it creates one, and of course, it's going to know, all right, what it does is it does write some internal thing to the DST that says, I am a DST file that is a web DST file. Now, can you open it up with out of the box Civil 3D or AutoCAD? Yes, you can. However, it's pretty slow when it opens up. I'm not gonna lie. There's a command. Write this down if you are going to use this functionality. The command is SSM detect mode, okay? Right now it's set to on. What it means is it says, hey, detect what DST files are known to be a sheet set, like a web sheet set manager file. So if you have that set to on, it recognizes and it opens up with this interface. If you set it to off, it opens up in like the standard way that you normally see, okay? So just be aware of that, okay? And the problem with that is if you set it to off, the reason I'm showing you that is sometimes the synchronization that you should be able to get from editing properties, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't. I don't know what it is. Obviously they're going to work on it, I'm sure. But so what you want to do is set it to off, open up your sheetset file and do some stuff there, and then it updates your layouts, it updates the sheets and so on. Okay, so just be aware there is some stuff that kind of is still happening. Okay, now of course, as you can see here, you can see all the sheetset files, and yes, you can basically drag them in here, right? So I can then expand this here to wherever I want to put them as a subset, and I can start dragging them. Now, wouldn't it be nice to be able to drag them all? And the answer is you can't, which I don't know who does the testing at Autodesk, but maybe they don't do a bunch of files. I don't know. But you would basically just go in here and simply, drag them in individually or whatever. Okay, that's just how it is. I know. You don't have to, you're preaching to the choir because I think it's kind of silly that I can't do these in a global kind of way, okay? The one feature I do love is they do have this auto numbering. That's awesome, okay? So there's an auto numbering where I can say, hey, if I want to do a prefix of, let's say, C, I can say do C1. Let's say I want to start at C6 here. I'll just hit OK, and notice how it does it. That's cool. That's pretty cool, right? So it does that automatically. The sheet name, you have to do yourself, of course, okay? One thing, of course, yes, you can go in here and right-click on this and rename, renumber, but you'll notice a few things are missing, which I'm a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I automatically, the way I like to do my stuff is I like to rename, renumber my layouts with that, right? So it shows, it'll show C6 planet profile, C6, C7 planet profile, and you can't do that. You got to manually do it. So that's just the way that it is. Again, that's just the nature of, I assume they'll add those eventually. But here I can just add in and call this one plan. I'll do it myself here. We'll do 6 plan profile, plan to and profile. And I'll click OK here. And it does take some time to update. Sometimes it just takes a while. And I've actually had it where sometimes it doesn't. I gotta be totally honest with you. It just sometimes does it. In fact, let me check here, rename, renumber. Yeah, see how it does that sometimes. So here's where I would take it into the old. I'm not gonna go over that. I only have 10, 15 minutes here to show you. But basically that's kind of what I do. Is that SS Detect mode is a good tool. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's on the Autodesk Knowledge Network. But that's how you can kind of go into the old DST version and change things and edit things and so on, okay? And of course, if you want to change your properties, if you click here, you'll scroll down, you'll notice that, right, this is now I can edit these and I can take, let's say this is Hamilton County, BOCC, that's the local agency, what's the project name? So I'll go over here, I'll do a Control A, and this is going to be called Lake Basin Loop, etc. You get the idea, right? So here's where all your sheet set properties are, okay? And of course, here's all your sheet set fields and all that good stuff, and here's the sheets being created, okay? All right, so that's basically, how it is somewhat integrated. Now, actually, I noticed that error message right there. Now, the way that you can, let me actually close this out here. I'm gonna actually, let me go to my other file here that I've already done, basically. All right, and let me go ahead and go to my sheet set file here. I'll just press Control 4, and I'll go to Open. And I'll go to here, which should be, this is my original one. Again, because auto detect mode is set to on, or set to on, it should recognize, see how it recognizes. If I set it to off, it would go to the default one. So this one's kind of already done. Now, one of the things that, Autodesk will tout, and they say this, you can right click here, you can publish the PDF. I don't like doing that. I hate to say it, but it just doesn't seem to kind of work the best. It runs in the background. You never know when it's there. And you can't change that. You can't set that to do that. Again, like I said, this is still new. They've got to update some stuff, but it still does work. And when it does, it works pretty nicely. What I would recommend you do is right click here, select all layouts like we normally do, and do the publish here. That's what I recommend you do. And then it works kind of with AutoCAD. Now, of course, if you have other sheets and different drawings, yes, you would just go to publish here and just wait for it to kind of upload, okay? And that's basically kind of how you want to do it. Now, the advantage to doing this with the with Autodesk Construction Cloud, or just using this here. Here's the kind of the cool part. This is the extra stuff that you're getting. Now, if you're a Bluebeam person, which I am too, we have Bluebeam. It's not Studio. I forgot what the new one's called, but you can do all that stuff there where it's online, and all the markups are there. If you're using that, that's great. But now with the Construction Cloud, what you'll see here is if I go, so I've already created the plot file. So this is in my plot folder here. And if I go ahead and open this up, inside Autodesk Construction Cloud, you get full-blown markup functionality. You can also get full-blown issue function, like all kinds of stuff that you can do. If you look here, I can check the issues that I've assigned. If I click on this, you'll notice I've already created an issue, and this issue is sent to me, it's sent to Alan, and sent to the other Seth Cohen, okay? And basically, if you look here, right, basically just to show this to you, if I go to my Gmail account, you'll notice that it does say, hey, there's an open issue here, and here are your action items. Let's review this intersection. I don't like how this, so I could kind of open this under this user, which it's probably gonna open up on mine, but basically if I scroll down here, it should tell us, I don't like how this super will not transition out, okay? Whatever comments you put in here, okay? All right, so that's kind of nice. And of course, like I said, if I click on this, I can also link a file. When I click on it, it opens it up in the Construction Cloud. It's not a duplicate, it's the same exact file. Notice how it opened it up again, right? And so of course, because I logged in as me, and this is pretty cool, right? So this is like the one-stop shop of finding, markups, finding issues, etc. And you can go to each one of these here, right? Here's a markup, right? So where's the pipe, etc. There's the text. I can click on these. You can change the way these markups look. I can create a brand new markup. If let's say I want to do a new one here, let's say I don't like this stitch block here, I'll click on that, and then I'll click on a piece of text here, and I'll say, hey, change the ditch block. Is my sound okay now? My microphone just shut off. Hopefully that's okay.
You cut out for a second there. You're good now.
Thank you, Alan. All right, so of course, again, you can do the markups. Now, here's the really cool thing. So here's what I want to really show you. And of course, I'm going to end this with a nice whiz bang because I do like to show this. So they finally, I will say this took a while to do. They used to have BIM 360 for your iPad, and no offense, Autodesk, but it was terrible. So they finally actually made it. I do like it a lot. So I have a pen. Let me start the broadcast. So I have some software that allows me to project my iPad here. So I'm projecting my iPad now. It's gonna be a little blurry because I don't pay for it because it's not worth the paying. But here's my iPad. So we're seeing my iPad now. If you look here, all right, here's the Construction Cloud. Now again, like I said, this is awesome. All right, now I'm using my pen. Believe it or not, I have my Apple Pen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just go to that same exact spot. So I'll go to HCAD, and then I'll go to plots, and then I will go ahead and open this up here. Now I'm in it. Now here's the cool thing. Again, I'm actually using my Apple Pen to go in and create this. I'm not using my pencil, my finger, I promise you, okay? And so now, in fact, I can actually, I think you can freehand. If I go here and go here, pick that, this. Oop. Did I just lose? Oh, we're not viewing it again. Yeah, because it's free, I probably have to restart this every time. We'll just do it again. Oh, connection failed. Of course it failed. I'm doing the presentation. Let's do this. Let me do screen mirroring here. Not the passkey. Screen mirroring, scan. Let me scan the image there. Connection failed. Of course it failed because I'm in the middle of the presentation. But anyway, let me try it one more time. But basically what I'm getting at is that you can actually QR code, scan, barcode, connect, scan with the mobile app. I'm trying. Maybe I ran out of time. Discover. No, yeah, it's done. It won't let me, but you get the idea, all right? Basically, you can draw with your Apple Pen. You can do all kinds, and that's where I like it, because here, to be honest with you, it's not the easiest way to, to draw, like that, right? With a pencil, you can do it. So honestly, what I do now on the construction on this is I actually use my Apple Pen. I do all my markups with my Apple Pen. It works awesome. So I really like it. All the tools are there and all that kind of stuff. So that's where it really is. And of course, once you save this and you can assign issues to everywhere, they will get an email and it notifies them. And then they can just use a link. And then, obviously nowadays, people either have a really large monitor or they have like 3 screens. I have like three monitors in my office. I'll put the markups on one, right, on the browser, and then I'll just go through them and then I'll check them when I'm done, right? And that's just, just like Bluebeam does, right? So you can now have access to it completely, all right? And that's basically a nice overview of Autodesk Construction Cloud and everything related to it. All right, any questions?
All right, perfect. All right, we've got a couple here. We have a couple minutes, so let's see if we can get through these. Can you change the location where all of the files are placed?
Yes, you can. That's kind of new in the desktop connector. I forget exactly where it is, but you can change the location of it. I think it's probably going to be in the start menu. If I open up here, desktop, maybe it's this way. But yes, you can. I know you can. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be in that user path. It can be under like a folder called, DDS CAD projects on the C drive, right? So you can do that there. You can do that now.
Okay. And then what about bringing in existing projects?
So you can bring in existing projects. What I recommend a few ways of doing it. The first thing is here. What you can do, they did add this utility. So if you bring in existing projects that have all these references everywhere, it does actually try to resolve all the references. And it does a pretty good job now. Before, it used to create this folder and you would have that folder in every single subfolder. It was really bad. It had all the references kind of copied around. It was really didn't do a good job. The way that I recommend you do it is, first off, is you can use this reference explorer. So right here, I can actually, let me actually get out of the file. It doesn't matter, but it'll be a little faster if I get out of the file here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up this file, my model file. And if I go over here and I'll open that up. So let's go ahead and open this up. What it does is it actually reaches into the file and interrogates it and it says, okay, what references, whatever they are being used. So what this, in my opinion, what you can do is, I don't necessarily say detach them, but make sure they're all relative and keep your subpaths the same. That way, when you upload it, it should create folders and put them in there for you kind of automatically. That way you don't have to worry about it creating new folders or putting them somewhere totally different. And then what you're gonna have to do is go into each file and kind of change the way that existing file solves the references, okay? So basically what this should do when it's done, hopefully it won't take that long, it's gonna show you AutoCAD references, it'll show you data shortcut references, it'll show you template references, fonts. It shows you basically almost pretty much everything that you will have referenced. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention while this is going, I forgot to show this to you guys. When you're doing the sheet set manager thing, hopefully that'll update. This is crucial. Whenever you go to plot, you will have to save, if you have specific fonts, you have to put the fonts and all the plot styles and everything in a support file location. You have to do this. This is one of the biggest questions I get all the time, is right over here, if I click browse, you're gonna wanna have to actually put this, so I'm gonna put this in NFP, my standards here, right? I'll click on here, I'll go to the plot styles, and inside this folder, I would just, well, again, it's that weird thing. You gotta pick the folder. So I pick on that folder and then hit select. Now, inside that folder is everything. And that's what you have to do. It's just the way, it's the only way around it. What I would like it to do, of course, is just read my AutoCAD options, but it doesn't do that as of now. So you have to have this support file because it uploads it to the cloud and it uses it. So if you look in here, I've got all my fonts, my CTB, my TrueType fonts, my PC3 files, everything, okay? So that's all in there, okay? Here we go. All right, so just make sure you do that for the sheet set file. So right here, if I look at this tree or this graph, this will actually show me all the things I have referenced, okay? And this is basically what you want to do is kind of look here and say, okay, these are data references, this is an X reference, and inside this one are data references to other things, right? So you just want to kind of check into that. Now this is overlay, but it still might, which of course should be okay, but basically it's just letting you know what's in there. So, but when you upload an existing project, just make sure you're aware of all the referencing that's going on, okay?
Okay, perfect. And actually that brings us just to the top of the hour. So if I can have you jump back, Seth, to the PowerPoint.
I'm trying to here. Let me cancel out of this and get back here. There we go.
All right, well, perfect. So thank you so much, Seth, for your time today, and thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate you taking the time and spending an hour with us. Please be on the lookout, like I said, for the recording that should be coming to your emails, as well as for future webinars. And again, if you need to, please go ahead and contact us at 305-445-6480 or email us at info@ddscad.com regarding any questions, concerns, interest in training, products, support, anything of that nature. We are here and we are more than happy to help. Okay, so thank you all so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.